Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
Inside release! We're reading you! That is say inside release! Just my get it going again!
It's getting warmer, and Nick Saban was getting a little hot under the collar. The coach fired up as he works with an inexperienced group of defensive backs. Today, Alabama kicked off its third week of spring practice. A-Day is April 21st at 1 p.m. Good evening, everybody, and welcome in to Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris, and tonight we've got Diet Pepsi for you here, as we're going to enjoy it. I love that sound, but let me tell you something. I like that taste even better going down. Remember to pick up some great Pepsi products the next time you're at your local grocery store. Well, Rodney, practice wrapped up just a short time ago, and afterwards, as is customary on Tuesday, Coach Saban met with the media. Here's a sampling of what the coach had to say.
We're looking for players who can play to this standard. And we're talking about intangibles here now. We're not talking about ability. We're talking about guys that will give effort, play with toughness, finish plays, mental and physical toughness when things get difficult, and have the discipline to go out there and execute and do their job and be responsible enough to know what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to do it, why it's important to do it that way. And if they don't know, come and see their coach so we got a chance to teach them. So, we got to get some people that have some conviction to what we're trying to accomplish around here.
If you don't know, you better find out in a hurry, because if you don't know, come August, you're going to be sitting over there on the bench. You can see Coach Saban intense today after a 4-day layoff. Rodney, one development since last week was the hiring of Lou Spanos as a defensive analyst. Spanos has a long history coaching linebackers in the National Football League, and his most recent collegiate stint was 2 seasons as UCLA's defensive coordinator. Now, with Tosh Lupoi taking over the defensive coordinator role at Alabama, Spanos could provide some help with inside linebackers, obviously in terms of self-scouting and so forth. As usual, Coach Saban putting together an impressive crop of not only coaches, but analysts as well. That's one of the storylines. Alabama also picked up a junior college transfer. We'll have more on him later. But, Rodney, what are some of the things that stick out to you as we enter the third week of spring drills at Alabama?
Well, I think part of it, Gary, is the same old, same old. When you go out and you have an opportunity to watch this team on the practice field, even though our viewing time is very, very limited, I mean, it's obvious this team is loaded with big, very athletic players. I mean, once again, Gary, people always say, how does Alabama look in spring practice? Well, this is a time for development. It's not really a team yet, but when you look at what they have just on the hoof, I mean, it's as impressive of a group as you see. And I think one of the things that we've talked about, too, Gary, is how the secondary really has to develop because you lost 6 players back there. And I think right now, even though it's still early, we're seeing some of those guys emerge. Trevon Diggs, Savion Smith at the corner spots. At the safeties, Deontay Thompson, Xavier McKinney. At the star position, you're seeing Shy Carter and Jared Maiden really, competing there. A lot of guys stepping up. And that doesn't even include, obviously, you've got 4 really talented guys coming in August and fall camp. They'll go through the summer program. Of course, they'll be here in June. So, this group, even though they lost a lot of players, they've got a lot of rebuilding to do. They certainly have a lot of athletes to fill those spots.
We saw Dylan Moses earlier wearing number 32. I guess he's going to break Reuben Foster's record for jersey number changes. I think this is already the 3rd number he's had. But he and Matt Wilson inside there. I mean, you lose, 2 years ago you lost Foster. You lose Sean Dion Hamilton. You lose Rashaan Evans. And gosh, my goodness, you step back up with 2 guys who are just as physically, if not more physically talented than those guys.
I mean, when you look at them, Gary, when I looked at them last spring when Dylan Moses first got here and those 2 guys were lining up with the second group, I thought, wow, these 2 guys, Mac Wilson, Dylan Moses, they look like NFL-ready players now, physically speaking. Obviously, they had some developing to do and still do. But you're right. I mean, every year you go through these changes. Last year we talked about having to replace 7 really talented players, a lot of great leaders, and they did it. You know, this year you're having to replace more guys. We talked about the 6 losses in the secondary, among other things. So, but when you look out there, Gary, I mean, it's still just a very impressive looking group on the defensive side. Now, again, a lot of inexperience, a lot of development that has to take place, and that's a good thing with these next 9 practices in spring. Certainly that'll go a long way into helping prepare this team to move forward into the summer.
Physical talent is there, but you have to mold a team, and a lot of that is done here in the spring. Well, since we met last time here on TITV, Alabama head trainer Jeff Allen was named the Trainer of the Year by the National Athletic Trainers Association. Rodney, we've discussed it before, but it's not just the coaching staff and the players. It's the support staff, the trainers, the nutritionist Amy Bragg and her staff, the managers. But Jeff Allen, we see him right there in the dark pullover. He might be as good as there is in the business. We remember last year when all those linebackers were thought to be out for the season, he helped them get back and play. You got to have good players and coaches, but to win championships the way Alabama does, you got to have all the right people surrounding the program as well.
That's perfectly stated, no question about it. He does a fantastic job. He and the group that work with him, Gary, in terms of getting these guys immediately after injuries, they start rehabbing, and you know, probably in terms of the rehab program that they have here, Gary, in terms of getting these guys back on the field, it's the best in the country.
There's no doubt about it. Congratulations to Jeff Allen. An honor well deserved. Well, as the weather continues to warm up, we'll start seeing some football camps popping up around the area. In fact, we already have. This past Saturday, Tuscaloosa County High School practice field played host to the Training with the Tykes football camp. Alabama wide receivers coach Josh Gaddis was there, as was defensive back Shaheem Carter and former defensive back Levi Wallace. We caught up with Levi and asked about his experience at the NFL Combine last month and his future in the NFL with the draft coming up.
I did good. I did. You know, I put on, you know, like how I thought I was going to do. I did really well. I think I impressed a lot of people, and then in the meetings it was pretty easy. You know, it's a lot easier when you're just talking about yourself in football. So when you dumb it down like that, you know, it's a lot of fun. Definitely an experience I'm glad that I've been able to be a part of. You know, I'm from the West Coast, you know, that'd be cool to go back that way, but anywhere is available. You know, I just want to go in there and contribute to any team I can.
And we're eagerly anticipating that draft to see just how many Bama guys get selected. Well, still to come on Tighter Insider Television, the Alabama baseball team got a huge series win over top 10 Kentucky. We'll hear from some of the Bama guys coming up. Plus, the Crimson Tide gets a defensive line junior college transfer. We'll discuss what he brings to the table up front on defense for 2018. And also, we'll be getting to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. The phone number, as always, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Or you can email us at TITV@WVUA23.com or tweet at us. Just use that hashtag TITV so we can find it on Twitter. We'll be back with more of the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. The one, the only, Tighter Insider TV is coming back right after this. The Alabama softball team got ace Alexis Osorio back from concussion protocol, and in the process got back over 500 in the SEC. Osorio threw a one-hit shutout on Friday at Kentucky. The Tide lost to the Wildcats on Saturday, but won on Sunday. Kaylee Tao was named SEC Freshman of the Week for notching 7 hits and 10 at-bats. That's a 700 average if you're keeping score at home. Bama is home against Florida. Wow, what a series coming up this weekend at the Rhodes House. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. Welcome back to Tighter Insider Television. We may be halfway through spring practice, but the Alabama coaching staff is still working on adding to the fall roster. The Tide picked up a transfer last week from the junior college ranks, defensive lineman Tavita Masika out of the College of San Mateo in California. Rodney, you spoke with his college defensive coordinator. What do you know about Masika? He seems to have all the measurables. I like the tape that I saw of him, but the fact that he was still available this late in the process, I don't get that.
Well, sometimes what happens, Gary, a lot of schools now want to get junior college players who are eligible to transfer in the middle of the year, have them go through spring practice, and he wasn't eligible to do that, and but he will be here in the summer. He's a 6'1½", 350-pounder, really big guy that everywhere I go, what are we going to do to replace Deron Payne? Well, you can't replace a guy like Deron Payne.
That's right.
But this guy's a 350-pound space eater. He's got really good feet, so he can clog that middle. If he can give you 10, 12, 15 snaps a game, Gary, that's certainly a bonus because you need all the snaps you can get from to spread around on this defensive line.
You know, and listening to his coach talk, He seems to think that he might be more than that. He seems to think that he'll have a chance to come in here and start.
I'm not limiting him in any regard, but what I would say is
But if you get that much, that would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is certainly it depends sometimes on the offenses you're facing.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. He's probably a nose guard strictly, or certainly mostly for the most part a nose guard. So depending on what the offenses you're playing will dictate how much he plays.
And he may need a little work with Scott Cochran and Amy Bragg in nutrition.
Well, they all do. When they get here, I mean, all these guys need some development. Some people need to gain weight. Some people need to lose weight. And he's one that might need to drop a few, but he certainly plays well.
And Tassel-Poy's ties out west really benefit Alabama as they pick up a quality defensive lineman for this season this late. That's really what Alabama's all about, finding those diamonds in the rough as well as the 5 stars. Well, the Alabama baseball team ended a 6-game losing streak in style, beating one of the best college pitchers in the game on Friday, and then following that win with a victory over Kentucky on Saturday. Now, the Tide fell to the Wildcats on Sunday, but still got the series win. Brad Bohannon isn't going to let his team get satisfied with just a positive performance over the weekend.
We had a good weekend against Kentucky. We took 2 of 3 against a ranked opponent. Lost a tough game yesterday on Sunday, so we just need to get back on track and get back in the win column.
As we speak, that game was scheduled for Jacksonville, but because of the tornado that hit the JSU campus, they're playing here. Highlights for you coming up tonight on WVUA 23 News at 10. And coming up right now, we're welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the information posted on the screen, so you can interact with Tider Insider TV right now. Phone lines are open, so go ahead and give us a call at 205-348-9882. If you'd rather email, Brandon will check for those, and also we'll be looking for that hashtag TITV if you want to tweet at us. We're right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV.
It's special for a lot of reasons. Number one, it gives our seniors that are going to be leaving the program an opportunity to perform in front of the home crowd, if you will, and their families come in, and I think that's a big deal. It gives people around here that are fans of Alabama track and field a chance to run, and any local kids, family members, a chance to be here on campus, and it's special for us to be able to provide that opportunity for them.
That was Alabama track and field assistant Blaine Wiley talking about the Crimson Tide Invitational, which starts this Friday at the Sam Bailey Track and Field Stadium. Man, I hope this weather will cooperate this weekend. We got so much going on. We don't need rain this weekend. We'll get on Richard Scott about that. All right, right now, let's head to the phone lines. We're lined up. First up is our pal Sammy up there in Walker County. Sammy, what's going on, partner? Sammy. Sammy, you there? I know Sammy didn't hang up. Something happened. Sammy wanted to talk about special teams, Rodney, and we've been asked that a lot, obviously with J.K. Scott leaving, Papanasto's leaving. They got to pick up with a kicker and a punter, and obviously the other areas in special teams too. But they brought in a big-time special teams coach to help with all that.
Yeah, Jeff Banks. I mean, he's one of the best in the country, and not only place kicker, which you mentioned needs to be replaced, and maybe Joseph Balobas is that guy. He's here right now. But also Austin Jones, a transfer from Temple, who was 50 of 67 in his career there as a grad transfer. He'll be here this summer. As a punter, Skylar DeLong, maybe the best high school punter in the country last year, Gary. Originally committed to Tennessee and flipped to Alabama. He's here now, going through spring practice. So that's good. And you're always talking about returns, too. So, we'll see what happens. There's a lot of great athletes that could be on the return teams in terms of, the return guys themselves. So, we'll have to let that unfold, but certainly they have the talent.
Let's go just up the road to Northport. Stephen is with us here on TITV. Stephen, how are you?
Oh, doing good, guys. Hey, first thing I want to tell you is your shirts, the locker room done great. They look great. Hey, I got, go back to football. I wanted to, Saban interviewed Freeze and then hired Butch Jones as an analyst. Let's touch on these points on it. I know they don't have any on-field, communication with the athletes, but do they have stuff to do like with the recruiting? I know they break down films, and is this common in college? If everybody doing it, or just
all right, Stephen? Good questions. First on Hugh Freeze, I do think Alabama was interested in hiring him. I've been told that the SEC might have had something to do with him not being in the SEC as an analyst. The analysts do have specific roles. They help with self-scout. They do a lot of breaking down film. They cannot actively recruit. And yes, it has become common. Now, it wasn't that common. I think Nick Saban was one of the first to institute that at LSU. Then when he got to Alabama, he kind of took it to the next level. But it is something that we've kind of seen everybody follow in on, and there are a lot more of these analysts and these support personnel people than there was even 10 years ago.
Well, it's amazing the ones that Alabama attracts, though. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, they had Dan Werner last year, who is now he's at South Carolina, who did a fantastic job as the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss for several years. And then, the guys they've hired this year, you mentioned Butch Jones, you mentioned Spanos. So, they continue to hire some really quality coaches in those roles that certainly can be helpful to the entire staff.
Yeah, that's what's unique about Alabama. They've changed the way you view analysts and interns, whereas before you thought of young coaches, graduate assistant types just starting their career. Now a lot of times you see, like you said, Butch Jones, who just was the head coach at Tennessee, now here to kind of keep his foot in the coaching door and plus learn from a guy like Saban.
And you remember how initially a lot of coaches, Mac Brown being one of those at Texas, really complained about the size of Alabama's support staff and coaching staff. I mean, what stops anybody from doing it? It certainly was not against the rules, and all schools certainly can do it. Yeah, that's
for
right.
Sure. Again, Alabama setting the pace, everybody else following up. All right, Jason and Brilliant, you stay on hold. We'll get to you when we come back. Also, a preview of this weekend's Tuscaloosa Gymnastics NCAA Regional, and more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, Jason from Brilliant, you're first up. There's the phone number, the email address, and you can tweet at us as well using the hashtag TITV. We're back with more right after this.
It's such an honor to host regionals. First of all, you get to be in your own environment. You get to have your home crowd there. We absolutely love our students being there to rev the girls up and get excited. And I think it's wonderful for the seniors that they get that last opportunity to compete in Coleman Coliseum for the very last time of their careers.
The Tuscaloosa NCAA Regional is this Saturday at 4 p.m. There will be 6 teams in attendance. The top 2 advance to the NCAA Championships in St. Louis. Let's go right back to the phone lines here on TITV. Jason has been patiently holding there in Brilliant. Jason, you're finally on. What's up, man?
Yes, sir. Do you think there's going to be another one of these true freshmen that's going to come in and be a wow factor? And my second question is, do you think the one that don't get to start quarterback this year is going to transfer?
All right, Jason, first on the freshman superstar, there certainly seems to be 1 or 2 every year, doesn't there, Rodney? Any prospects that you could see having breakout seasons their first go-around?
Yeah, and you never really know. I think a lot of times it's the guys who enroll early have a little bit of an advantage in that regard, but we've seen it where Minkah Fitzpatrick was an early enrollee, and he was really good right off the bat. So I would say keep an eye on Jalen Waddle, a slot receiver and a guy returning kicks, Gary. Maybe Ayabi Anoma as a pass rusher. I think he's got a chance to be an outstanding player. Those 2 come to mind. There may be a secondary player. Patrick Surtain's one. Josh Jobe, maybe one of those guys that was recruited in the secondary. So, we'll see what happens, but those are some that come to mind.
Let's go out to Buell and talk with Rob. Rob, welcome into TITV.
Yeah.
Bob, I'm sorry. Bob.
Yeah. I was calling about the quarterbacks that transferred when Hurts won that starting job. How successful were they?
All right, Cooper Bateman and Blake Barnett. All right, Bob. Yeah, and I want to finish up Jason's second question, too, about Jalen and Tua, who doesn't win the job. No, I don't think either one will transfer. Now, who knows next year, but I think both those guys will be on the roster this year. That's my feeling anyway.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, I think it has to play out, but certainly when you're talking about Alabama only having 3 quarterbacks, you need all of them here. No question about it, especially with Gardner Minshew, the grad transfer, deciding not to come, Gary. But those other guys he talked about.
Cooper Bateman and Blake Barnett.
Yeah, and also David Cornwell. Yep. He started a game.
The most successful.
Yeah, he started a game, but he threw 3 interceptions in the game, so at least he played. The other guys really didn't. I don't think they saw much action.
Yeah, Bateman at Utah, Barnett at Arizona State, Cornwell was at Nevada, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then he did quit the team.
Yeah, so sometimes the grass is not always greener, Bob. All right, let's start with BT right here in Tuscaloosa. BT, what's going on?
How about Gary and Rodney? How about y'all?
Oh, man, we're just doing a TV show, talking to you.
It's been a wonderful day, ain't it?
It's been a wonderful day. What you got, BT?
Gary, have you heard anything on Colin Sexton on his
Not yet, BT, but we're expecting something soon. I think that that type of an announcement, whether he stays or goes, and I'm expecting him to go to the NBA, I feel like it could be any time, Rodney.
Yeah, you would certainly think so.
Yeah, I mean they need to get moving with that one way or the other. So we'll keep you up to date on that. Thanks for the phone calls. Still to come, it's Masters Week, and Justin Thomas talks about how he got his fiery attitude that we've come to know him for. And we'll have that story on a pretty evening in Tuscaloosa when we return to TITV. Baseball score update from the Joe. Fourth inning, Jacksonville State beat Alabama in both meetings last year, and it's no score tonight in the fourth. We'll have highlights for you tonight on WVUA 23 News at 10. Welcome back. The tradition continues at Augusta. The Masters begins on Thursday. Justin Thomas, the former Bama star, along with the best golfers in the world, will compete for the 2018 Masters Championship. Now, JT is looking for his first green jacket. This will be his third appearance, but he is one of the favorites as he tees off Thursday morning. Regardless of how he performs, we're used to seeing the former Bama standout show emotion on the golf course. He said that's something that his dad talked to him about.
We've had quite a few discussions when I was a junior golfer about my attitude. I mean, I was a fiery kid. I'm still the same fiery person, but I was just a lot more immature then. So, you know, I just looked like an idiot out there instead of at least like to think that I don't now.
It's something he's worked on, but that's who he is. He's an emotional guy. Our shirts were referenced earlier in the show, and yes, they look good because they're from the Locker Room, home of the original Elephant Wear in downtown Tuscaloosa. Our ties as well. Go by and see Alex and Rush and the folks in person, or you can shop online at locker-room.biz. They'll have you looking like $1,000,000. Thanks for tuning in. A reminder, if you missed the show, you can catch a replay tonight at 10:30, or you can find it anytime at WVUA23.com. So for Rodney, Brandon, Jen, our entire crew here at WVUA 23 and TITV, I'm Gary Harris. Have a great night, everyone.